been patiently waiting. He could be out playing Pokemon Go himself. Let's welcome to the show, Mr. Sal. Now, Sal, how do you pronounce your actual last name? Is it Otero?
Yeah, you got it right.
Bingo. Cool. What's going on, man? How you been?
Oh, not too bad, man. I'm just listening to you guys talk about the documentary and everything.
So now you are like you're. I was saying earlier in the show about how you're a person that loves to walk, because every time we turned around when we met that weekend in Atlantic City, you were always like, all right, watch my table, I'll be back. And he would just get up and he'd be gone and he'd be out walking around and like 32,000 steps by the end of the day. It's just like, holy cow, like how? So are you exploring the whole world of Pokemon Go?
No, my daughter's into it. I didn't want to play it just because I'm so busy as it is that I didn't need something else to distract me.
Oh, yeah.
So
too funny.
if she wants to go for a walk, I'll walk with her. But I try to stay away from the game. I actually knew about it because my brother told me about it like 6 months ago, and he was just like, "Dude, this is gonna come out. It's gonna be awesome." And I'm like, I would love to play it, but right now between my PS4 and my PlayStation Vita, they get no love right now because I'm working on a children's book and I'm doing commissions and conventions. It's just there's no time to do anything. So by the time I actually start playing Pokemon Go, I'll probably be way behind everybody else.
I saw you've been putting up a lot of pictures this week. You're working on a children's book now. Is that something you normally do, or is that like something new for you? Or
no, it's something completely new. Basically, one of my friends, Rich Parada, he works normally with Marvel, and he was just like, "Hey, man, I'm really behind on stuff. Do you mind taking over this book?" And I was just like, "Sure, man. I'd love to try new things because then when I go back to drawing normally, I feel like I pick up a new trick here and there. But it's been fun. I actually enjoyed it so much that I'm thinking about just making my own children's book.
Really?
Yeah, it's a completely different beast than comics, because in comics you have to tell a story with pictures and not really rely so much on the words as much when you're the artist. But in this, you can just put a little 2 sentences there and the kids read it, and then you just have one picture to kind of draw the kids in. And to me, that's a completely different beast, and I have so much fun with it that I just told my wife, I'm like, I actually enjoy this a lot. So she's just like, well, you have plenty of ideas, and, I'm a huge advocate of getting kids fit and exercising. So I feel like maybe I should do a book about karate and getting kids excited about exercising, because you don't necessarily need to go to a gym to get fit. The first 80 pounds that I lost on my own was just, like you said, walking and eating better. So, if a lazy bum like me can do it, any little kid can do it.
Now, that was the thing, too. Like, I was telling Nick, like, both myself and Nick both have struggled with weight a majority of our lives, we'll say. And I was saying how you were telling me you were over 300 pounds at one time. And how much do you weigh now?
Right now, like I told you at the Comic-Con, I gained a couple pounds because I had stomach surgery at the end of last year because they thought I had a tumor in there. I was tumor-free, so it was kind of a waste. Pumped me with all these pills, so all I was doing was like eating and laying down. So I ballooned back up to 225, but now I'm down to 200 even. My goal is to get to 178, 175, because it does help with drawing. It helps with conventions because walking around can be really exhausting. So that's my goal. My wife thinks that 200 is just fine, but I'd like to fit in medium shirts at some point.
Now, what's the like your normal weight? Were you always like a heavier person, or is this all new for you, this whole getting down to like the 200 and under 200 range?
Oh, it's completely new because I've always been a heavy guy. Back in school, well, it started as a kid because, as you know, I was a huge wrestling fan, and all my uncles and cousins would tell me, hey, you want to be a wrestler someday, you got to eat. And so, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay. So I started eating everything that I could find, and I got so fat that I couldn't do anything. And, you know, when you're, you know, about 5'7", 5'8", and 240 pounds, like at 11, you're pretty big. And wow. I just kept eating. And then, you know, I had points where I got down in weight, but then I just picked it right back up. And now it's just, it's almost a lifestyle change, because if I go out with friends and they're ordering burgers and everything, I just say, hey, I'll get the grilled chicken instead. And it sucks sometimes, because sometimes I do get the cravings to eat a huge juicy burger, but you know, it's just in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I eat this, it's going to be 2 or 3 days in the gym to get rid of it. So I kind of tell myself, you know, is it really worth, you know, eating and stuff? Whereas beer, you know, you could drink a couple beers and you burn it off almost immediately the next day at the gym. So those are the types of things that's always running through my mind. And as you know, conventions aren't really good for eating because everything's junk food there. So you guys were smart that day. You brought your own food.
Well, yeah, it was still, you know, fast food stuff, though. I mean, we packed little things, but it's not like it was anything healthy.
Yeah, but you know what? I found, I'm not going to call them hacks because they're not really hacks, but there is ways to eat fast food and eat it healthy. I go to McDonald's sometimes because my girls love McDonald's, and it's a little treat for them. They love the toys. But what I do is when I go there, I'll get the value burgers and then take the patties off and throw it on one of the side salads. And it usually, it's a good way to cut like 2/3 of the calories out of what you would normally eat, because 2 single burgers are like 560 calories. And it sucks constantly crunching numbers in your head. It's like you're an accountant with fat. But
right.
I know that now it's stuck in my head. So my wife makes fun of me, you know, my brother, my mom. So I'm used to it now. So I kind of let it rub off on me. But in the end of the day, at least, you know, I'm not as big as I used to be, and I'm happier that way. I always said I'd rather be miserable and skinny than just miserable. So
Good point.
Yeah.
That's the truth, though. Like, the whole that gets very frustrating, I know for me, is just the constant counting and keeping track and making sure, you know, it just, after a while, it just gets to the point where you're just like, screw it and give me the double cheeseburger.
Yeah, but you know what? You know, I heard before I got on that you kind of thinking about doing the Pokemon Go. Just think of it as kind of playing a video game, but with your calories. And it's a good way to get started with it. Instead of going on an app to play a game, you're going on the MyFitnessPal app and just logging in. And then at the end of the day, you're like, holy crap, I ate 3,000 calories worth of crap. So then the next day you might cut something out that, you know, was just empty calories. I tell my wife all the time, a Reese's peanut butter package is like $400 or 400 calories. So, you know, that's an empty calorie to me because there's no nutritional value in it. I don't even think it's pure peanut butter in that.
Oh, too funny.
It's definitely daunting, but now I know what football players and bodybuilders go through, because, you know, all my bodybuilder friends that I see at the gym are always crunching numbers too, but they do it to a whole new extreme. I just do it to the point where I know, oh crap, you know, I ate a lot today, maybe it's time to tone back. If I get hungry, I'll just have some water and throw a couple lemons in there, because the lemons kind of keep your appetite satiated. And then I'll tell you one thing, I could have not lost this weight without bubble gum. It's kind of like smokers kind of trying to quit, and smokers are, oh, I don't know how to quit, and then they chew bubble gum and it kind of helps them. It's the same mentality. You know, I get hungry, chew a bubble gum because it's only, you know, 10, 15 calories each piece. I don't know if it'll help, but, you know, little tips and advice like that. But that's what I would base my children's book on, is kind of giving kids quick little go-to tricks. Because, kids have way too many options these days.
Yeah.
And then they're always going to pick the junk food over the healthy stuff.
Yeah, I do too. Can't help it.
Yeah, but, you think about it in the back of your head, and, a lot of that stuff is picked up behaviors from when you were a kid, and you go to the corner store and you're like, I got $1, I'd rather get, instead of an apple, I'd rather get, all these Ghostbusters, jelly candies and stuff like that. And now as an adult, I probably do the same thing. So it's hard to get over those little, I don't even know what to call them. I guess they're just, little things in the back of your head that tell you, hey, you're getting the best bang for your buck, but it's not the best bang for your health.
You know what? That's another thing too. Like eating wise for me, like I always try to get the most, like you said, the most bang for your buck. So I'm always trying to get like the biggest portion of food for my money.
You got to stay away from Golden Corral then, because you just keep eating there.
You know what? I haven't
all you can
been
eat.
to a buffet in a while, and that's why. Like I purposely keep myself out of them places.
Yeah, and then like Chinese restaurants, it's so cheap, and you get such a high portion of food. It's like it's kind of hard to let it go. And then what I try to do is like end up saving it. And are you a pizza guy?
Oh my God, I could eat pizza every meal the rest of my life.
It's a dumb question.
Wait,
I know so many people that
aren't pizza guys. Do those people exist?
They're probably not the ones that read Ninja Turtles then.
Oh.
No, but I always try to, if I want a slice of pizza, instead of having 2 slices, I'll take 1 slice and cut it in half. And it's like telling my head, I had 2 slices of pizza, but it's actually just 1. So pizza's like my guilty pleasure. I love that. I love pizza. It's so easy to just get.
There's a place in Philly down on South Street, Lorenzo's Pizza, that the slices are so big it takes up 2 paper plates. So you can get away with that.
There you go. Or take the family with you and just share 2 big slices, and that's a whole pie right there.
Exactly. Funny. So now you are an artist. The big reason we wanted to talk is because you are an artist. And something that really shocked and surprised me when we were talking was like you kind of like got into the whole art game late.
Oh yeah, because I don't know if you ever went through this when you started wrestling, but I always had that self-doubt. Like, hey, I'm not ready for this, because I'd always see other artists work, and I'm like, man, I'm not at that level yet. And people around me would tell me, hey, that's really good, but they're friends and family, and sometimes they're just putting smoke up my ass. So it's not until I did that cover that I saw that people actually liked the art, and my confidence started building up more and more. Now I still have confidence, but I still try to be humble about it. So that way, if someone does have a critical thing to say about it, I don't get down on myself. So it's tough at times, because there's so many great artists out there, even including some of my buddies who are in the business, and even your daughter's stuff is amazing. So it's competitive, but I didn't realize there was such a community in the art game.
Yeah, I'm noticing that too. Like more and more and more, like how many real artists are out there. It's pretty crazy.
And it's when I'm not a lot like a lot of other artists where someone brings a portfolio to them and they kind of blow it off. I try to tell whoever brings the portfolio, this is really good, keep pursuing it. So maybe I'm inadvertently making more competition for myself.
But the competition I think is going to be never endless. It comes to the point where now it's more than
it's always good to have competition, and competition keeps you going. And if I didn't have competition, I'd probably still be drawing the same way I did when I first released the turtle cover. and I feel like I've grown a lot since, a couple of years ago. So, and it's constantly other artists where I'm like, man, that guy killed it. Let me up my game, and it's everybody's kind of one-upping each other, but it's friendly competition, minus one or two bad apples in the business who like to crap in everybody's Cheerios.
Well, you know what? I want to get into that whole thing. I think you know where you're going with that, but I want to get into that in a little bit. But as for like were you drawing like as a kid?
Oh, constantly. Because we grew up pretty poor, so my dad got us Nintendos and stuff like that, but we only had like one game, and so I constantly spent time in my aunt's house, and her house was bare. All she had was a TV. So one day my mom put a Sharpie and a pad of paper in front of me, and I just kept doodling, and I was just like, I really like this. And here in Rochester there was like an underground graffiti thing going on, and I met a lot of those guys, and I would see the stuff they would put out, and I'm like, I'm really good at drawing creatures and people, but I suck at drawing graffiti. So one of them finally said, then why don't you just draw comics? And so I always came up with these weird stories, and I was just like, I really dig comic books. And, my dad got me my first Superman comic, and I was hooked. I've fallen in and out of love with comics every now and then just because, the books tend to waver or they rehash the same crap. So then I'll jump to anime, and then from anime I'll jump back to martial arts. And something in each one of those mediums always sting in me to keep going. And,
right.
Then I had the wrestling craze too, and wrestling was like live action comic books back in the day. And WCW, like larger than life characters. WWF had the unique characters, and then ECW had the more realistic characters, and you mashed all those together, and you can see a lot of the influence in some of the stories that I write, because some of the characters that I create are like pro wrestlers, that same bravado and attitude that those wrestlers had back in the 90s and 80s.
Yeah, I mean, that I could see why that could be like a huge influence on anybody with all the characters. I mean, it really does become almost like a comic book at times.
Oh yeah, man! It's like the first time I saw Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant fight, I'm like, this is like Hulk and Thor going at it.
Right, right.
And you would. Before that, you would only see that in the comic book, and you're seeing it on TV, and it just blew my mind. I'm like, this is, they probably got the influence from comics, but they lend to each other so well, and it's not a coincidence that eventually wrestling got into the comics game, because it just blends well together.
Now, at what point did you say to yourself, like, I want to try to become like a comic book artist? Like, was there a defining moment?
Oh, definitely. Back in high school, because I love learning, but the way teachers taught just bored the hell out of me. So
Sure.
I'm like, what if I created a comic about World War II, or what if I created a comic about feudal Japan? And that kind of told me this is the road that I should be on, because if I can get kids interested in learning by reading a comic book, that's going to be my goal in life. And the same thing with martial arts, the same thing with getting kids into comics, because there's a lot of kids that are like, oh, I'd rather watch the cartoon than read the comic book. But what they don't realize is the cartoons wouldn't be there without comics.
Right.
So it's getting them to know, hey, this is where it all started. This is where you should be focusing on. Then go to the cartoons, because I'm a huge cartoon fan myself, but if it wasn't for comics, those things wouldn't exist. And the same thing with anime. Without manga, there'd be no anime. So getting kids interested in education and getting them interested in reading again is a huge interest of mine. And I told myself in high school, I'm like, this is what I want to do. Even if I'm flat broke one day, and, not making a penny, but I'm still doing what I love, it'll be worth it. I'm not a very materialistic person to begin with, so it works out for me. This is not the field to get into if you like buying stuff.
Too funny. Now,
well, yeah, I got a bunch of friends, that want to play video games, and I'm like, yeah, I can't afford that game right now. I'll play it when it's in the bargain bin someday.
Now, becoming that, from going from the high school kid wanting to, draw comics and stuff like that, to making that jump to saying, all right, this is what I'm going to do. Like, how, the time span, what was that? Like, it was
long.
Yeah, wasn't
it was really long because I've always been really good with people. So right out of college, I only did 2 semesters in college. Like I said, I get bored the way teachers teach. So I was just like, I'm done with college. So then I did my first customer service job, and they were like, well, you're really good with customers and people. So I did that for about 8 years, and then finally, my back broke. And it kind of put things in perspective. I'm like, I did 8 years of customer service, and I have nothing to show for it. So I just kept drawing while I was laid out. And, if it wasn't for First Print Comics, they're the ones that kind of got the ball rolling with Ninja Turtles. If it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have the career that I have now in comics.
Wow. So with the Ninja Turtles, how did that thing all come about?
Well, it was pretty funny because my favorite comic book shop is the one that I just talked about, First Print, and I go there religiously when I was injured because I had nothing better to do, and they would give me huge discounts on books, and they knew I drew, and one day they were like, look, we want to do a cover for the Ninja Turtles, but you're the only guy in here that we think that could pull it off. And I thought it was a huge boost of confidence that they thought that, and they were like, we're going to send it in, we're going to try to get the cover. You might get rejected, they might pick you. So I went back home and I just drew my ass off. I put everything I had into that drawing, and they ended up picking it for a variant cover. That's why I'll always say I owe this whole thing, everything I've done to this point to that comic book shop. They were the first ones to really believe in me as far as a comic book artist.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So
yeah, it was a dream come true.
After you got that cover, how did things change? I mean, did a lot of doors start opening up for you from that, or? Yeah,
it was it's like when they say the term overnight success, like that was it literally felt that way, because as soon as the book hit the shelves, it was like multiple people asking me, hey, you want to work on this book, or you want to do this? And I was leery about doing that because prior to the Turtles, I had so many failed ventures into the art business, so I'm like, I don't want to do this because I might get burned again and stuff like that. So I just wanted to do the convention scene for a while and get to build my fan base. And then I started doing more indie projects, and I did a couple of indie projects here in Rochester called Ant Hill. I did a cover for them. I did a couple of movie storyboards for like indie films and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get more under my belt before I try to go for bigger things. And then, the convention scene kind of swallowed me up completely, because then more and more cons were like, hey, we want you here because you did Turtles. So I was, I'm trying to do more of the cons, but they do take up so much time. And my biggest thing right now is I want to work on my book called Midnight Eye. That's been my baby since I was in high school. It's the story that I've been developing forever. And when you're doing cons constantly, it's impossible to work on a story. So
right.
Once the con season winds down, then I'm going to be doing a lot of that, during the holidays and early next year to try and get it out by April.
Yeah, it's the con season winding down. It's like it seems like there's not as much off time. It's like maybe like now it's like mid-December, and then it kicks right back up mid-January. It's like you don't even get a month. It seems like now.
Yeah, and then people don't really have a lot of spending money during that time because they're buying gifts and stuff. So those cons don't tend to be as lucrative as the ones earlier in the year. But I still do it because I get my name out there. But like you said, it's like, 2 years ago, there'd probably be like a con every other month. Now it feels like there's 3 or 4 cons every week. And
right.
It's so daunting. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should go to Jersey, but, I got invited to Albany. It's like you have to choose which one to do and which one's going to be best for the family because I don't want to be gone from my kids that long. And my daughters right now are growing up so fast. So I want to be there when, on the weekends when they want to go out and do stuff. So it's a huge sacrifice to do cons, especially far away cons. Like Atlantic City, I had to leave Wednesday, and I didn't get back till Monday night. So I lost about 5 days with the kids and my wife. And, fortunately, though, my wife understands, and she wants what's best for my career. So, but luckily, ACBC was a huge success.
That's awesome. Good. And that, with your wife and all, your wife's your manager. So is there ever times like the family will come along with you, or?
Well, now that it's summer, they're coming along with me more often. But what makes it hard is the logistics of it because sometimes I do shows 4 or 5 hours away, and my kids can't even handle 15-minute drives. So we're constantly stopping, and my wife knows that takes a toll on my back to constantly stop and go. So
right.
They try to come along to the trips that are at least less than 3 to 4 hours. Like this past weekend, we went to Lake George for the Infinity Con, and my wife has a sister about 40 minutes away from Lake George, so we got to stay there. I got to meet new family, and it was nice because there's no internet service out there, so I kind of got – that's why when Pokemon Go came out, I had no idea what the hell was going on. I just logged on to Facebook, and everybody's playing Pokemon. I'm like, what the hell? I was gone for, 2 days, and now everybody's a Pokemon trainer?
The whole world changed in those 2 days.
Yeah, it's and you know how Facebook is. It's 24-hour news cycle, so it's constantly what's new or what terrorist attack happened today. It's like I can't keep up with this shit.
Now, as a matter of fact, Jabbar, who we also met in Atlantic City,
great guy.
He's doing he teaches classes, like literally 10 minutes from my house, and my daughter Rita's been going to his classes every week now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's the type of stuff you don't get anywhere else because if it wasn't for the con, that would have never happened. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So and he does a convention, and he said you're going to be coming down for that in October.
I'm going to try to. He invited me, but the problem is, again, it's logistics. My kids start school in September.
Right.
And it's quite a bit of a drive. So if I find a way down there, I would love to go down because Jabbar's great people, and he does a lot for the community. So I love helping anyone that is focused on helping and giving back to the community because not a lot of people really care about the community like we do, and that and artists, we usually are the social beacons of change. Not a lot of people think that way, but if you think the last 20, 30 years, a lot of the changes in science and social commentary has come from film, movies, comics, and so I always say writers, artists, and directors, we change the landscape of things. And and Jabbar is trying to do that with his comics and my comics too. So a lot of artists out there, they just do it for fun. But I feel like if we actually focused on changing things for the better, we could.
Right. Absolutely. And I'll tell you what he does down there, because I sit in with the classes and I sit there and watch what he does. And actually my younger daughter's going now too. And what he does with these classes and the interaction he has with these kids is just incredible. And the scarier part is the talent that these kids have that they don't even realize. Like, he's got them drawing, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wow. Like, I was blown away. I was not expecting that level of talent coming out of these kids.
Yeah, man, because now kids have so many outlets to choose from, so they're getting influences from everywhere now. Whereas before, you remember TV was like, 4 or 5 channels, and then the rest you had to pay for, and then there was comics, but, a lot of kids couldn't afford it, and video games were 8-bit little sprites. Now,
right.
TV, you got 400 channels, you got Netflix, you got Hulu, you got comics on tablets, and video games that look like live-action movies. So these kids are constantly getting these images of new worlds that they wouldn't have gotten, 20, 30 years ago. So I'm so impressed with the level that these kids are drawing at already, and it won't be long until your youngest is probably setting up at a con too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So what plans you got going on? Any? I'm sure you have some cons coming up.
Yeah, this week I'm going to be at Camillus Con in Syracuse. It's a small college show. And then after that, at the end of the month, I'm going to be in Wizard World, Ohio.
Oh, nice.
And I'm looking forward to that one because the Wizard Worlds draw huge crowds, and it'll give me a chance to put my name out there. And hopefully I get to meet the voice of Vegeta because I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, and he's going to be there. So I'm probably going to geek out about that. I only really geek out with cartoon voices because I'm not a huge fan of the actors. Some actors I'm okay with, but I love voice actors because it's crazy how they can change their voices constantly. And I grew up with those Dragon Ball Z voices my whole life, so I'm going to probably be like a little schoolgirl meeting him.
That's funny. That's like a whole new thing. Like, we've had a bunch of voice artists on here and there, and it's like a whole underground thing that's really starting to rise above ground, the whole world of voice artists.
Yeah, it's I don't know if Mark Hamill, everyone thinks of Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, but my generation thinks of him as the Joker because he did such a great version of the Joker for the Batman cartoon. And
right.
If you listen to his Joker and you listen to Luke Skywalker, they sound like two completely different people. And voice actors are the only people that can do that because you can have Vin Diesel in a movie and then have Vin Diesel in another movie, and it's still Vin Diesel. But if you tell someone, hey, you tell people Luke Skywalker is Joker on the Batman animated series, and they give you a cock eye, like, what? And tell you to show them the credits, And I thought it's so magical to see that,
It is. It is definitely an art that needs to be a light shined upon more and more.
Oh, absolutely. They're artists with their voice.
Absolutely. Now, how about any other? I know you were trying to squeeze in working on your own book. Any other possible Turtle stuff or anything else you got possibly popping up?
Well, I have a second cover that I've been trying to push at IDW. I don't know if you saw it with Shredder and Bebop and Rocksteady. They rejected it the first time around, but I'm coloring it this time to see if maybe they'll give it another look. But after that, I'm just going to focus on Midnight Eye because I feel like my story is unique enough where it'll send a couple shockwaves in the industry, and it's the premise is a little it might be controversial, so I'm hoping that the controversy carries some of the book forward.
A controversial comic book.
I know there's been a lot of those lately, but I feel like there hasn't been enough stuff that's critical of religion and control of the people, and that I use martial arts as the basis of the story, but the background is the Vatican controlling the planet, and the Vatican kind of like it's similar to our government, and so I know that it will cause a lot of controversy. My wife's already scared.
Oh, you're really going to flip some buttons, aren't you?
Yeah, and my wife's already like, we should change our address. You should probably release it. You should release it under a different name. But I'm not scared. In the end, it's a work of fiction. So if someone's getting upset about it, they can come tell me to my face, and I'll explain to them that it's just fiction. If it upsets you that much, then maybe you should look at yourself a little bit more, because there's a lot of fiction out there that would be controversial to me, but I know that it's a work of fiction.
Right. Just challenge them to a game of Pokemon Go. That's all.
I'll have my daughter do it. She's a better trainer than I am.
Yeah, this has been awesome catching up. I hope you do end up making it down in October.
I hope so too. I want to see the family and hang out again.
Yeah, for sure. Where can everybody find you, keep up to date with you, see you at the cons and everything else?
Well, on my Otero Studios page, it's right on Facebook. I have a list of all the shows that I'm doing this year. There's also, I put up live streams of me drawing. Then also, I'm on Twitter. Not so much these days, but whenever I'm at a show, I like to, tweet a little bit here and there, and that's at Lee Shenlong 10. If you go on my Otero Studios page, there's plenty of posts from my Twitter, so you can just click on it and go if the name's kind of complicated. But those are the two that I use the most, and then I have Deviant Art as well, and you can just search Sal Otero on there and it'll pop up.
Nice. Cool. Well, we'll have to do this again to catch up again, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully we'll see each other in October.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you for having me on.
Definitely, man. Definitely. It was always great, and thank you for, everything that whole weekend was great. Conversation, the teachings you taught us, and everything else. It was definitely a great weekend of and a new friendship bonded.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll be talking to you soon, and thanks again. And say hi to the family, and go out and play that Pokemon, man. It's your turn now.
Yeah, I will. I need some more steps.
There you go. All right, Sal. Thanks, man.
Take care.
Take care. You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye. All right, but there he goes. Sal Otero, artist extraordinaire. Good guy. Really good guy.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I can do 32,000 steps in a day, but that's just freaking. So, yeah.
I think a good starting goal would be 32 in a week.
How about 3,200? Let's start at that. That's like a reasonable goal, I think. 32,000. Insanity.